First at 6, 5 people arrested following anti-government protests in Cuba. Demonstrators setting fire to a Communist Party office in the central part of the country. Others taking to the streets during a blackout, banging pots and pans while chanting, "Down with communism." This all comes as President Miguel Diaz-Canel announced the island nation is in talks with the United States. Some Cuban Americans say the regime must listen to their citizens' voices.
Para mí, una traición.
For me, it's betrayal. The Cuban regime needs to set their people free in elections where they respect human rights, respect the freedom of speech, and the
Good evening, I'm Chelsea Jones. Despite these talks happening, there is an ongoing energy crisis in Cuba. CBS News Miami's Steve Majuri shows us how people are making the trip to Cuba to give supplies to people in need.
Medea Benjamin has been gathering supplies and hundreds of volunteers to go on a humanitarian trip down to Cuba a week from today.
Just in our group, which is only one of the groups, we're taking $430,000 worth of medicines. It's about 6,000 pounds. And people have been collecting medicines for quite a while now because they are so appalled at the hardships that the Cuban people are going through.
This comes during a time when the U.S. has stopped oil shipments coming into the Caribbean country, and President Trump has threatened to slap tariffs on any country that ships oil there. The U.S. halted all of Venezuela's oil shipments to Cuba after capturing Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro in January. Venezuela has the largest oil reserves in the world and was Cuba's biggest supplier.
First and foremost, it's a humanitarian mission, but it's also to denounce U.S. policy, which we think is designed to create hardship for the Cuban people.
On Friday, Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel acknowledged that 51 prisoners were being released from Cuba and says the island is in talks with the U.S. about their long-standing differences, but warned that an agreement was still far off.
Am I in favor of talks? Absolutely. Something's got to change, and I think this pressure that the U.S. government is putting on the Cuban people, because let's remember, it's the over 10 million people on the island who are feeling this.
President Trump has been eyeing a regime change in Cuba, and he said that could be done either through a friendly or unfriendly takeover. Manny Zafra has Cuban relatives and says the oil blockade, while harsh, can be used as a negotiating tool.
By suffocating them, they'll lay out the cards and say, okay, let's work together.
Do you think people should have to suffer through this oil blockade while negotiations are going on?
It's a big double-blade sword because you're suffocating the people, the population, but at the same time, you're putting pressures in the government.
Orlando Gutierrez of the Assembly of Cuban Resistance told us he isn't optimistic that change will come as long as the same leaders are in power in Havana.
The regime recognizes there's been contacts with the U.S. In my opinion, what they're saying is they won't change their political system. I think the talks are stalled at that key issue.
Steve Majiri, CBS News, Miami.
And stay with CBS News Miami for the latest out of Cuba. Check out our Cuba in Crisis section right on the front page at cbsmiami.com.